Hello, everyone. Welcome to a review of the movie Whiplash. This is another movie that I really enjoy. I've seen it a couple times over the past several years. One of my close friends recommended it to me, and yeah, it's an awesome movie. It was directed by, I believe his name is Damien Chazelle, and it was released in 2014. It stars J.K. Simmons, and I want to say his name is Miles Teller. I could be wrong. He's the guy from Top Gun Maverick. But anyways, this movie is very simple in its premise, and yet it does so much with the basic premise that it has. It's about a wannabe drummer who hopes he is destined for greatness in the music world. And so he is willing to put up with this terrifying instructor at an arts academy who is basically the only thing in the way of him achieving this potential greatness. This movie almost feels like a horror film at sometimes because it's just constantly intense. The relationship between Andrew Neiman and Terrence Fletcher is just completely terrifying. Fletcher has seemingly all the power in the situation and can do whatever the hell he wants with it. He's chucking chairs at people's heads, he's slapping people across the face, and Andrew basically is willing to put up with this if it means he has a chance of achieving his dream of becoming one of the great drummers. Now, for me personally, well, I can't relate specifically to Andrew Neiman's situation in this movie. For me, I must admit that this movie was really hard to watch because as someone who has for a long time wanted to be like a great artist, like a filmmaker or a writer, I've always been terrified of the idea of like what obstacles are in my way of achieving this goal. And this movie brings that fear to life in a unfortunately realistic way. I mean, maybe Fletcher's a little over the top, but still, the idea that one person believes that they have like all this power and can do no wrong and can push people to their limits by sheer mental and even physical abuse is just terrifying to me. And I think it kind of acts almost as like a metaphor for some institutions that exist in the world of art where people just find themselves stuck because the people in power are refusing to give them anything or give them any leads to get ahead in the industry. But anyways, this movie, I believe, is based off of the director's experience where he had, I believe it was one or maybe several like instructors in his past when he was a musician trying to make it in that field, and these people probably, I hope, were not as bad as Terrence Fletcher, but still, it was enough to inspire him to make this movie, to write the script, I believe. And this movie was masterfully executed. The pacing, the editing, all of it coalesces into this. I mean, I think the title has a double meaning here. It feels like Whiplash at some points, in a good way. This movie manages to get so much across about Andrew's character, how he's willing to give up his relationship with his family or even a potential relationship with a girlfriend to pursue this career with this guy who will stop at nothing to achieve perfection, to get his Charlie Parker, to get his prime student or pupil or whatever. And it's just a rough ride from start to finish. I mean, the opening scene pretty much perfectly shows off these two characters in a nutshell, and then from there it's just constantly like developing. The fast-paced editing and nature of this movie keeps you on like the edge of your seat. There was never a moment in this movie where I was not, engaged. There was never a moment where I was bored. I was constantly just invested in what was going on and also terrified of what was going to happen next. Because that's another thing about this movie. Everything is unpredictable, it seems. Terrence Fletcher is an incredibly unpredictable character and makes the story so much more thrilling and engaging because you don't know what he's going to do next. One day he may throw a cymbal at your head, the next day he may come in crying about one of his former students having died. And again, even that may not be all that it seems, on the surface at least. It's just a movie that really sticks with you long after you watch it. You think, I mean, I thought about it constantly and how it related to me somewhat. I mean, thankfully I've never come across someone like Terrence Fletcher. I've never had to deal with that kind of abuse from anybody in my life, thank God. But just the idea that that could happen to me or someone else. I mean, I have a lot of people who are hoping to get into the film industry and writing or music or what have you, sorry. And it's just terrifying to think that there's people like Terrence Fletcher out there that may do this to them. Now, going back to the story of the movie, it's a pretty fairly unpredictable story. I mean, there's ups and downs everywhere. The ending is definitely not what I was expecting, and I think the ending of this movie is perfect. It's one of those endings that really sticks with you long after, and even just like how they must have, like all the work they went through just to achieve this ending with like the performances on the drums and the other musicians, not to mention again the editing here, which is really snappy. It constantly cuts between different close-ups of various instruments at certain points. The camera is always keeping you engaged. It makes you feel like you have the sense of adrenaline rushing through you. I also really like the color balance or the white balance of the cinematography. A lot of the movie is done in like this yellowish tint, which I believe was done to help the brass instruments really stand out, and it works. There's also a lot of green in the movie during like I believe the scene in the pizza place in New York, and also in, of course, several other scenes. But these use of colors, I think, really give this movie a kind of like classy tone, like almost like a tone you would expect to have if you were in like this professional music world or something like that. And again, the music as well. I mean, the soundtrack for a movie about music, it better be good, and it's fucking great. I love the songs in this movie. And another thing too that I want to touch on is something that actually one of my friends talked to me about a long time ago, about how this movie almost, at least in this world, it turns the performance of music almost into like sports. It almost feels like some strange version of the NFL. I mean, that's probably a bit much, but it feels competitive. And the idea of, I mean, I'm not one to speak on behalf of the jazz music world, but to me, jazz is kind of like this relaxing music. Like it could be like uppity or chaotic or anything but relaxing, but to me, jazz almost seems to be about not being ashamed of imperfections and using them sometimes to make great music. But here, Terrence Fletcher, who completely misunderstands jazz, just turns it into this competitive sport where people shed blood, sweat, and tears, and turns it into just something that it just is not. And I really love how the movie does that. Again, more to think about. And another thing about this movie that I really enjoy is, of course, the performances. I mean, I've touched on that briefly here, but I know J.K. Simmons, I mean, he won the Oscar, and rightfully so, for this role. He does an incredible job at portraying Terrence Fletcher and being just absolutely terrifying. Whenever I see him in another movie now, I can't look at him the same way again. And this is coming from someone who loves the original Spider-Man trilogy, so seeing him even in those movies, it's like, man, the guy can play a character really well. And I don't want to take away from, I believe Miles Teller is his name. He does a great job as Andrew. You really feel for him in the first part of the movie. And as the movie progresses, you know, as his character changes, you start to, you know, develop more questions about him, who he is as a person, even like you start to question some points like, is he a good person? Because I don't want to get too many spoilers, but some of the things he does in this movie are pretty, yeah, I mean, he's going at great lengths to try and achieve his dream, and he's, I mean, sacrificing a lot to get there. So, obviously, talking about like his girlfriend and whatnot, which I guess there's a minor spoiler there. But, anyways, this movie is incredibly well done from top to bottom. I mean, there's very little complaints that I have. I love how the tension, like no matter like what, like this movie constantly invents like new ways to bring like more tension. Like it's constantly like raising the stakes in like that specific moment, while it's also like constantly like reminding the audience of like the big goal that's at stake here, which I think is often hard to do without like shoving it like the audience's faces. But here it's like, it's so relatable. Like if you almost like the movie kind of trains you to remind you of it yourself, because in many cases it just compares it to, it's so easy to get lost and put your own goals that you may have for yourself in this world and in this character, and put yourself in Andrew Neiman's shoes. It's just an incredible experience that for me is really hard to watch at times, and it's just wonderful movie, I think. It's just got nonstop tension. It almost feels like an action movie too at some points, with like how like intense against with like the instruments, the constant cutting between different shots, like the drums and the other instruments, the trumpets and the violins. I don't know. I don't know my instruments, but yeah, it's just got everything that you would want for this kind of story and more. Like I don't know like what else to really add from to this movie a whole lot. It's just yeah, I really enjoyed this movie. It's one of my favorites, and I'm really glad that my friend showed it to me. It was one hell of a movie. I mean, I will say, kind of like how Breaking Bad is, there are some memes that I've seen which they don't ruin the experience of the movie itself for me, but it's again like taking like some darker moments in that movie and just making them funny. Which I mean, it, I will admit it's kind of hard to watch the not quite my tempo scene, which I'm even if you haven't seen the movie, I'm sure you've seen or heard something from that scene. But yeah, it's just the memes do kind of I guess do that for it. But still, this movie is excellent. It's one of the tightest stories I think that I've seen in a long time, and yeah, I just don't really have much else to say about it. I really enjoyed this movie, and I think you will too. It's definitely not for the squeamish, and yeah, but still, I would highly recommend giving it a chance. It definitely deserves your time. It's not even that long too. I believe it's an hour 45 minutes. It's under 2 hours. So yeah, Whiplash. I'd say if I had to score, I'd give it a 95. I'd say damn near perfect. Damn near perfect. Again, great performances, great editing, music, even the cinematography is pretty damn good. Everything, every category, this movie is just above average in all of them, way above average in most of them. So, yeah, that's my 2 cents on Whiplash. Thank you for watching this video, and please let me know in the comments any other movies you'd like me to review. Hopefully, I'll try to. I'm going to try to review more recent movies that are coming out in theaters right now, but I want to start off with some movies that I really like. But yeah, thank you for watching, and hopefully I'll see you next time. Peace.